Hello everyone, I'm Colton Folletti with the Grenadier Company of the 33rd Regiment of Foot, here to explain some of the differences between the regimental distinctions among different regiments of the British Army. Starting with myself, I portray the 33rd Regiment of Foot, which was actually not present during the Boston Campaign. Our regiment spent 1775 quartered in Ireland, where through the diligence of our colonel and our lieutenant colonel, Lord Cornwallis and James Webster respectively, we became known as the pattern, or the standard that all other regiments in the Army should adhere to. We soon gathered a reputation as the finest drilled, best equipped unit in the entire British Army. The regiment arrived in North America in early 1776 and took part in operations in South Carolina before joining the main army outside of New York City, where we took part in all of the battles in and around New York, as well as in the Pennsylvania and New Jersey campaigns of 1777 and 1778. The regiment then proceeded south again in 1780 during the siege of Charlestown and spent the remainder of the war in the Southern Campaign, fighting at Camden, Guilford Courthouse, and finally surrendering at Yorktown.
My name is Richard Tucker. I am a corporal with the Grenadier Company, 47th Regiment of Foot. The 47th was formed in 1741. It served at the Battle of Prestonpans during the Jacobite Rebellion under Peregrine Lascelles, prior to coming to America again in 1773, where they garrisoned various towns in and around New Jersey and southern New York. In October of 1774, they were moved up to Boston, where they became part of the Boston garrison in November. Their flank companies, their light infantry and their grenadiers, such as myself, were involved in the Concord expedition. The regiment as a whole was involved in Bunker Hill later on. After the evacuation of Boston, we went to Halifax with the rest of the Army. However, unlike the rest of the Army, we were sent to relieve the siege of Quebec, where our colonel, Sir Guy Carleton, was Governor General. After that, we became part of General John Burgoyne's army. We were involved in his northern campaign in 1777 before being captured at Saratoga.
Hi, I'm Tim Kelly. I'm from the 10th Regiment of Foot. We were formed in Lincolnshire in 1685. We recruited from across England and Ireland. We came to Boston in 1768 and participated in all the major battles up to and including Monmouth. So we participated in the March on Concord and Lexington and also Bunker Hill. After the Battle of Monmouth, the regiment was drafted. Our officers and drummers were sent back to England, and the rest of the regiment was sent to other regiments throughout the colonies at that time.
So now that we've discussed the histories of our respective regiments, we're going to take a look at some of the uniform differences, specifically among grenadiers. Obviously, there are differences between the different companies within each regiment, battalion companies and light companies, for example. But regarding regimental differences as a whole, the largest difference that you will see is the color of our facings, that is the cuffs, collar, and lapels of our coat. The 10th being yellow, the 47th being white, the 33rd being unique as being one of only two regiments with red facings. There were, of course, regiments with blue, with green, etc., etc. Following up on the discussion of coat facings, a further distinction is the shape and pattern of the lace on the buttonholes. Of course, you will notice that both regiments here have rectangular lace, and while mine is of a shape known as a bastion loop, and the actual color woven into the lace itself is different with each regiment. 2 black stripes and a red for the 47th, a blue stripe for the 10th, and a red stripe in the center for my regiment. Of course, the most obvious difference upon close inspection of each soldier's uniform is the numbers on the buttons. Some have fancy designs where you might be able to see the edge around the 47th button, and of course the edge around my button as well. And then if we look at some of the other adornments of the soldiers here, like belt plates, for example, they are also marked with the regimental number. The 47th just has the plain Arabic numerals, whereas the 10th has the Roman numeral. Whereas mine, Lord Cornwallis, being one of the richest men in England at the time, went a bit above and beyond with the procurement of our belt plates. They have a sort of pebbled design, and there are some other regiments like the 7th, for example, who by the end of the war had RF for Royal Fusiliers on their belt plate. There are regimental numbers applied elsewhere on our uniforms as well, such as on the back of our on the badge on the back of our caps, we have a 10 here, a 47 here, and of course mine would have a 33. And the soldier of the 10th here has a pouch badge, again with the regiment's numeral on it on his cartridge pouch. There is no evidence to suggest that the 47th Regiment or the 33rd had them, as they were not universal throughout the Army, so you notice that our cartridge pouches are plain without any adornment. The final detail of our coats that is different from each of us, as grenadiers and light infantry would have these as well. As members of an elite flank company, we have wings on our shoulders. You will notice that the styles of lace are different from regiment to regiment. The soldier of the 10th here has loops that are identical to the ones that appear on his facings, whereas the soldier of the 47th here has just plain strips of lace. Whereas myself, we actually do not know historically what the wing lace of the 33rd Regiment looked like. There is evidence that it could have been bastion loops as on our coat, but bastion loops on coats do not appear that much in period artwork, so based on the best evidence available to us, we opted to go for a zigzag pattern, which is very commonly seen during the 18th century. Another detail that you will notice on our coats is on the tails of our coats, we have these unique shaped badges here. You will notice that battalion troops, for example, just had a simple heart, a cloth heart as a reinforcing piece. Our status as grenadiers is further reinforced by these bomb badges. And gentlemen, if you could turn towards the camera one more time, you will notice that our bomb badges are slightly different in terms of shape and color according to our regiment. There are some other distinctions between regiments that are not covered by us here, us being grenadiers. There were, of course, different styles of light infantry caps, for example. Each regiment had differently patterned colors or regimental battle flags, and a regiment's seniority, whereas their regimental number, would determine their place in line. For example, the 10th, being a senior regiment, was formed much earlier than the 47th or 33rd, and that would dictate their place in the line of battle. Historically, when a conglomeration of units were on the field together, the most senior regiment would take the right-hand spot on the line of battle. The next senior regiment would take the left-hand position on the line of battle, and it would continue alternating until the two very junior regiments were in the center. This practice also applies when the grenadier and light companies of different regiments were formed into composite flank battalions. They would form the same way. So the senior-most grenadier company, for example, would take the right flank of the battalion, the next senior would take the left wing, and so on, with the two junior companies in the center. So that is a short and very abbreviated rundown of the various differences between different regiments of the British Army. As always, we'd like to thank you very much for watching, and if you'd like to come out and see us, we will be in Gloucester at the 250th anniversary Bunker Hill reenactment on June 22nd, and be sure to like and follow our respective unit Facebook pages.